Hi, my name is Liz Lavenberg. I'm a fitness specialist at the Cooper Fitness Center, and I'm interested in applying for the performance specialist position at the Michael Johnson Training Facility. I've competed in track all through high school and college starting in 8th grade. In high school, I was able to compete in the 4 and 5A TAP state championship, winning the 100 and the 300 meter hurdles all 4 years. I went on to a really small school in Mississippi called Mississippi College, where I had a blast running for Coach Ard. I competed my last 3 years at the D3 track championships in the 400 meter hurdles. Being able to have that experience is going to be one of the best things that I'll remember in my whole life. Having loved track for the past 10 years, I decided to go ahead and get a coaching job right out of school. I currently coach at Episcopal School of Dallas, the middle school and the upper school kids. It's a really great opportunity to work with them from a very young age, teaching them proper running form. That's something that I found is very important throughout my track career, to focus on good running form, having proper mechanics and doing things correctly. That's going to increase performance, and also with an everyday individual like I've learned to work with here at the Cooper Fitness Center, it can help prevent injuries and also increase a person's enjoyment for running, because they're not going to be having as many little aches and pains if they're having proper running form. You'll see me working later with Emily Brock. She's a fellow fitness specialist here, and she was a former soccer player. So being able to teach her proper running mechanics is going to be able to help her in her fitness now that she's not doing soccer anymore. Being a hurdler all through high school and college, I've had experience with working with proper sprinting form and the importance of having good form, proper block technique, and proper explosion. So I'm experienced with working with those kind of athletes because I helped out my team. I understand the value of really working the sprinting technique and translating that into the other events, including hurdling, jumping, the 400, 200, all those events. What I'm going to show you now is some exercises that I've developed for Emily, really just basic, starting from scratch running form. So here we go. Alright, we're here today working with Emily. She's a former soccer player that is wanting to work on her running mechanics. So we're going to be going through some exercises that are going to help her break her lateral movement running technique into a forward movement running technique. So we're going to be doing a lot of sagittal plane exercises. We're going to start up warming up. We're going to do some single leg swings. This is going to warm up the hamstrings. We're going to be activating the quad, getting a good stretch to the hamstring and the glute while stabilizing with the hip. She's going to be keeping her knee bent the whole time so as not to put pressure on the ligaments in the knee. So we're going to be holding onto the tree for stability, swinging the leg up, activating that quad, and all the way back. She's going to get a good stretch in the hamstrings, glutes, and also in the hip flexors as she's coming back. We're going to go about 10 times each leg. Notice how she's keeping her foot dorsal flexed as she's going through. That's very important in track movement. You'll see a lot of people pointing their toes. It's not going to get you the best range of motion. We're going to be going both sides. Keeping the shoulders straight, hips straight, knee bent. It's a very good job, Emily. Okay, after she's going forwards, we're going to do the lateral leg swing. This is going to warm up, again, the glutes and the abductors and adductors of the hips. Again, we're not going to be doing any lateral movements, but we still want to warm up those muscles. It's not to injure herself. So she's going to be coming across with her leg, coming across her body, keeping her hips facing the tree, holding onto the tree for stability. Again, keeping that foot dorsal flexed, getting a good range of motion, really stretching out those hip flexors. 10 times on each leg should be sufficient enough to warm up. Of course, all this is after a good jog. She's done a half-mile jog around our track here at the Cooper Fitness Center. She's warming up her muscles before we do any kind of exercising, is to not pull anything, damage anything. Alright, once she's done with that, we're going to be going into another hip warming up exercise. It's called the Iron Cross or Eagles. Emily, you're going to be laying on the ground. You're going to come over to the mat. Laying on the ground, hands out to the side. You're going to keep your right leg straight as you bring your left leg over to touch your left hand, to touch your right hand, sorry, and then alternate. We're going to do this kind of quickly, a little bit quicker. It's a good dynamic warm-up. We're really warming up those hips, activating them so when we start our exercising, those muscles are aware that they're going to be moving. Let's go about 5 times each side, should be good, just to demonstrate right now. It's good flexibility in the back also, good range of motion. It's going to really help warm up those hips. The next exercise we're going to do is called a donkey kick. This is going to be activating those glutes and the hamstrings while stabilizing the core. She's gonna be on both hands and knees, kicking that leg straight up. Again, keeping the foot dorsiflexed the whole time, activating that glute, kicking straight up in the air. Bring your knee all the way down to the mat. We're gonna relax the glute and then activate it again. Let's go about 5 times on each leg. Notice she's keeping her shoulders tight, her core activated to stabilize herself. Nice and easy. Again, these are all muscles that are going to be used during running. So we're going to really activate them, let them know we're about to use them. We're going to wake them up in a sense. Doing about 5 times each side. She's doing a very good job of keeping that core nice and tight. All right, next we're going to go into our dynamic warm-up. With every good sprinter, you want to activate those hip flexors. The ideal sprinting form is going to be knee drive up nice and tight. So the first drill we're going to do to really activate those hip flexors and to kind of mimic that running form is called an A-skip. What you're going to do with the A-skip is you're driving your knee up. Opposite hand is going to be forward. We're keeping our upper body always at 90 degrees. Driving that knee up, really popping, activating that hip flexor and activating that quad. And then popping straight down. We're going to be going in a forward movement though, always keeping the foot dorsiflexed, okay? Opposite arm, opposite leg. Notice she's keeping her foot dorsiflexed. She's driving that knee nice and high, activating those hip flexors. Elbows are always staying at 90 degrees as she's going through. And turn around, come back. It's very important, especially for soccer players, that she's keeping her arms moving in that sagittal plane. A lot of times with soccer players, you're going to get the crossover because you do a lot of lateral movement, a lot of cutting in soccer. So even in our drills, we really want to focus on forward movement of those arms to practice good habits. One thing you do with these drills is you create muscle memory. When you work on these drills, nice and slow and controlled, really concentrating on one specific thing, you create a muscle memory. So when you get on the track and you start moving at higher speeds, those muscles know what to do immediately based on what you've trained them to do. The next one we would do in this progression is called a B-skip. Emily has just started learning to do running form, so we're not going to be able to progress to that one right now. I want her comfortable with A-skip before we move on to the B-skip because I don't want her to be doing it wrong. But the B-skip is going to be the same kind of movement, Emily, as the A-skip, except you're going to be up, kicking your leg out, and bringing it back down. With the bringing it back down, you're activating that hamstring and that glute to quickly bring the leg down and around. Keeping the foot dorsiflexed as you're coming up and around and pointing it as you're coming to the ground. This is really going to teach you to power off the ground. The more force you put into the ground, the more force the ground's going to give you back. We're not going to move into that one again today. I want you to get comfortable with the A-skip before we go into that. The next one, again, soccer player, trying to get her used to that sagittal movement. We're going to do high knees. The one thing she really needs to focus on when you're doing these high knees is getting that knee up, letting that heel come around the knee and then back down. Because again, we want to be practicing this in a forward movement. So let's see, getting those knees nice and high, almost like A-skip, but you're going to be a constant movement. So now quicker. There you go, perfect. Again, she's moving her arms nice and forward, keeping them at 90 degrees and back. Getting those knees nice and high, but really activating her hip flexors. She's not used to getting to her knees this high with soccer, so it's really, she's going to be feeling it tomorrow. All right, so that's it for our dynamic flexibility and our dynamic warm-up. Okay, now we're going to be working on a corrective exercise. We've done our dynamic flexibility. We're really, again, working on her sagittal plane forward movement. Again, the soccer thing is not going to be acceptable on the track. It's not going to be good running form. What we're going to be doing is we're going to put the band around her. She's going to be going against resistance doing the A-skip. What this band is going to do, it's going to put resistance against her and force her to have to really drive those knees forward. This is going to activate the quads and the hip flexors, really teaching and reaffirming what we were going through in the A-skip. Like I said, she's not ready to go through to the B-skip, so we're going to reinforce until she feels comfortable with this A-skip. So we're going to come back here, load her up with resistance. Again, she's going to be focusing on keeping her elbows at 90 degrees going forward. So we're going to nice, slow A-skip. She's really having to power her knees forward to be able to move against this resistance. If she keeps her knees down, she's not going to get very far. Keeping those elbows nice and locked, arms at 90 degrees. Okay, we're good. Now that she's getting those muscles trained to that specific movement, really nice and forward, I'm going to have her try some running with it. This is very basic, beginning stages of her training, so it's not going to be 100% perfect, so don't expect 100% perfect. But we're really she's going to try translate what she was just doing in the A skip about driving those knees forward, keeping those arms straight against the resistance. Again, the resistance is going to help force her to drive her knees forward to be able to move forward. So just taking a few steps forward, and go. Notice how she's having to drive her knees forward to be able to move against the resistance of the band, focusing on keeping her arms bent. This is very sport specific. This is something that we work with a lot of our track athletes on. Really working those hip flexors, driving that knee forward. A lot of soccer players, they're here in their running form. That's not going to get very good extension, not very good stride length. So that's it. That's your sport specific training. Okay, the next thing we're going to be working on is the concept of pairing a strength exercise with a power exercise. We're really going to be focusing on the power here, but what we're doing with the strength is we're really going to be loading that muscle through a range of motion and letting it go nice and slow, getting that strength aspect, and then immediately moving into the power. What this is going to do, it's going to make the muscles move through that same range of motion at a quicker pace, increasing the power that you're going to get. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using the quads and the glutes with a lunge. We've got a barbell here that Emily's going to put on her back. Okay. What she's going to be focusing on with this lunge is she's going to be stepping forward, Emily, pushing through the heel, really activating that quad. She's going to bring her knee down, letting it almost touch the ground, but not quite, because this is really going to force her to stabilize. She's going to be pushing through the heel, back up to her original stance, and then switching legs. Again, she's keeping the body line nice and straight, her head in line with her spine, really pushing through that heel to activate that glute. This is activating the quad and the glute, which is very important when you're running, because again, getting that knee drive up and powering down force with the glute. She's going to go about 3 times each side. We're really loading the muscle up here. And then moving directly into the power aspect of the exercise. We're going to be doing what we call scissor jumps or nationals. She's going to be doing this quick and powerful. So you're going to be opposite arm, opposite leg. Again, we're focusing on keeping the upper body at 90 degrees the whole time, building good habits, muscle memory. Down, nice and low, powering up and back down. Really activate those glutes and hamstrings, glutes and quads when you're doing this. Nice and powerful. Her muscles have already gotten the strength exercise through the lunges. Now we're focusing on the power. Nice and tight, keeping those arms at 90 degrees. Careful not to bend those elbows too much. Really working through the shoulders. So pairing the strength and the power exercise is really going to help increase that power. It's a way of getting strength through a functional movement that you use during exercising and during a track run. You're not necessarily doing lunges, but you're going to be using those same concepts of really powering forward, powering through. And that's your strength and powering pairing.